Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit. Today I have some fascinating Reddit stories to share with you. Let's dive into them together. I, 28-year-old female, eloped with my fiancé, now husband, Aiden, 29-year-old male, and got married in Vegas. As a result, my parents are angry with me and have not visited us since then. Initially, we didn't pay much attention to their feelings, assuming they would eventually forgive and reconcile with me. However, it now seems that their anger is not fading away. Background: I am a nurse, and my husband is a cab driver, and he is a Black American. We first met when I moved to Reno from my hometown to work a job. On my first day, I booked a cab online, and he happened to be the driver who picked me up and dropped me off at my destination. The next day, I was surprised to see him near my flat, and I initially thought he was stalking me. However, it turned out that he lived in the building next to mine. Since booking a cab online could be time-consuming, I asked him to provide me with daily pickup and drop-off services to work, which he agreed to. We exchanged phone numbers, and he began providing me with transportation services regularly. While on my daily commute and engaging in small talk with him, I realized that he was a genuine man, so I decided to befriend him. You might find it a strange idea to befriend a cab driver, whom I hardly knew, but I had a gut feeling that he was a gem. After 2 weeks of our first meeting, I invited him for coffee. We started meeting for coffee regularly after that. After 2 to 3 months, I realized that I had feelings for him, but I kept them to myself, waiting for him to make a move, as I sensed he felt the same way. After 6 months of friendship, he finally proposed to me. I was overjoyed and promptly accepted his proposal. We have many sweet memories together, but I won't share them all here to keep the post concise. Let's get to the point. After 5 months of our relationship, I introduced him to my parents. My parents also found him to be a good man and were happy that I had found a good partner. After some time, we formally got engaged and remained so for 2 years before getting married 4 months ago. Though my parents liked my fiancé, my siblings turned against my choice. My brother, Michael, 31-year-old male, said that my choice was so mean that he could not imagine. He said that I was going to ruin my future by marrying a black criminal. I told him that being a criminal has nothing to do with race or color, and that any person, whether they are black or white, can commit a crime, and that there are thousands of white criminals. He replied that no doubt there are some white criminals, but all black people are criminals. I was disappointed after hearing such nonsense talk from my educated and so-called liberal brother. I didn't expect such extremism and racism from him. Boiling with anger and disappointment, I told him that I didn't want to have any relationship with him until he apologized to me and my fiancé in front of all family members. In response, he said that it is next to impossible that he would apologize to a black criminal. This was the last word I heard from him, and we have not talked to each other since then. Later on, I learned that he had a fight with my fiancé over fare around 2 months ago before I met him, and this is why he was having such negative feelings about my fiancés. As for my younger sister, Jennifer, 26 years old female, she didn't show such toxic behavior, but she also didn't like my choice. However, I didn't think about other people's opinions about our relationship, and we just proceeded with our relationship. We had been engaged for 2 years and were waiting to get married until we were both in a good financial situation. Finally, 4 months ago, we felt it was the time to start our new journey. Initially, before our engagement, I wanted a wedding with all our immediate family members, parents, siblings, uncles and aunts, cousins, grandparents, etc., and friends invited. However, over time, things changed for the worse. During the last 2 years, my siblings treated me as if I were an outsider just because I had chosen to marry a black guy. They didn't respect my choice and always gave the impression that I was going to marry a criminal just because my boyfriend was black. Not only this, they both got married in those 2 years and didn't invite us when all our cousins and even distant relatives were invited, but we were not. Analyzing their behavior towards me and my fiancé during those 2 years and their opinion about my boyfriend, I decided not to invite them to our wedding ceremony. The day we decided to get married, I reached out to my parents so that we could discuss the arrangements for the wedding and prepare the guest list. After discussing all the arrangements, when we sat down to prepare the guest list, I told my parents that I didn't want to invite my siblings, so we should have an exclusion list along with the invitation list. I expected my parents to understand and agree with me because they knew very well about the dispute between us. However, my parents advised me to forget what happened 2 years ago and move on. I was surprised to hear this from my parents. I confronted them, saying, "Why should I forget? They are calling my life partner a criminal. Their discrimination against my fiancé, their opinion about my choice, or the insult my brother inflicted on me when he found out that I was in a relationship with a black guy. My parents tried to calm me down and said that I should cool down and listen to them carefully. I asked why I should calm down. It was not something minor for me, because my siblings had made me feel like an outsider in my own house. So I told my parents that I was not going to invite them to my wedding under any circumstances. When my parents persisted in wanting to invite my siblings, I said I was going to get married on the decided date and not invite any family members. My father said that I was being emotional and should calm down, and we would discuss the matter the next day. Saying this, they left. I was disappointed with my parents' behavior. The next day, I returned to Reno and discussed the whole situation with him, my fiancé. After a thorough discussion, we decided not to invite anyone to our wedding ceremony. In fact, we would not arrange a conventional wedding ceremony. Instead, we would spend the money we had set aside for the wedding on a long honeymoon. In the evening, my parents called me and asked me to come home, but I told them that I would not return home as I did not feel it was the right time to get married. They agreed, but their tone indicated that they thought I was wrong in not inviting my racist siblings to our wedding ceremony. After a week of preparation, my boyfriend and I left for Vegas. After tying the knot in court, we started exploring the city and visiting its beautiful places. We stayed there for 3 weeks and enjoyed our honeymoon to the fullest. After that, we returned home and resumed our normal routine. When I returned from our honeymoon, I uploaded pictures of our small formal wedding ceremony in court and those from our honeymoon. When my parents found out about my wedding, they called me and confronted me, asking why I had done this and suggesting that I shouldn't have cut ties with all family members over such a minor dispute. They said they would never speak to me again. Initially, we didn't pay much attention to their feelings, assuming they would eventually forgive and reconcile with me. However, it has been 4 months since they last talked to me. I have been trying to contact them, but they are not ready to talk to me. I am certain that my decision to not invite my siblings was 100% right. But I am not certain whether my decision to elope from home and get married without inviting my parents is wrong or right. So, AITAH? OP is not an AH for not inviting her racist siblings and parents to her wedding, and I don't think she should beg to have a relationship with their parents. OP has made no mistake here, so I would give OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's racist brother deserves 5 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's sister deserves 3 out of 5, and OP's parents get 2 out of 5 for supporting their racist children. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries. Welcome to Am I the AH, where OP was sexually assaulted by criminals, and now she is pregnant with a baby girl. OP's mom wants her to end the pregnancy, but OP is not ready for it, stating that her daughter is the greatest sign of her resilience. The story is packed with emotions and is an epitome of resilience. Let's dive into it. I, 18-year-old female, am a college student, and my life took an unexpected turn when I became pregnant as a result of a painful and traumatic incident. About 6 months ago, I went on a 1-week trip to Hoh Rainforest National Park with my friends. The trip was amazing, but the last day turned into a nightmare for me. In the first 5 days, we explored the park, hiked trails, camped, and tried survival camping. On the 6th day, we embarked on trekking the Hoh River Trail, which is the area's primary hiking trail. We could have done this trail earlier, but we intentionally saved it for the last day to keep our excitement alive until the end. We started our journey before sunrise and reached the end of the trail at 3 p.m. after covering a distance of around 30 miles. Though it was a hectic journey, we really enjoyed it. Upon reaching the end, we decided to camp there for the night and return to our hotel in the morning. We had a barbecue party at the camp and went to bed early. In the morning, our camp leader Olivia, 20-year-old female, suggested playing a real-life path puzzle game. When we asked how, she explained that we would split up and find our way back to the hotel using routes other than the Hoh Trail. The most important rule of the game was to reach the destination without using a digital map, so our mobile phones were collected by Olivia and sent to the hotel before we started the journey. Everyone was free to choose their route, and I decided to follow the Hoh River. I thought I could reach the hotel by following the river since it flowed near our hotel. After walking for 5 hours, I thought I should be close to the hotel, but it was nowhere in sight. There were no hotels or shops nearby, only a tent by the river. When I approached the tent, I met 2 men named Daniel, approximately 31 years old, and David, approximately 27 years old. I explained my situation to them, and they informed me that the river's path was not straight. It curved before flowing near my hotel. Due to this curve, I would have to walk an additional 15 kilometers along the riverbank to reach the hotel. This came as a shock to me as it was way past afternoon and time was running out, and I was already exhausted. When I expressed my concerns, they kindly offered to take me with them as they had a room near my hotel. They seemed nice at the moment, so I agreed to go with them. We left for the hotel at about 5 p.m. On the way, Daniel started making lewd jokes and trying to be overly friendly with me. Initially, I tried to ignore his offensive jokes, but eventually, I told him to stop talking to me that way. But he continued. I got a bit weirded out, and when I showed some anger, he pushed me in the chest and David slapped me on the butt. I was horrified to see their behavior change and sat down, telling them I would not go with them. However, they started pulling me, and Daniel even began dragging me. I tried my best to break free from their grasp, but failed. I had realized what they wanted from me, so I attempted to escape, but they caught me. Then, they held me, removed my clothes, and forced themselves onto me. I started bleeding, and soon lost consciousness. I do not know what happened to me after that. Worst nightmare of my life. Even now, I am shaking as I am writing this down. All my friends reached the hotel around 4 p.m., and after waiting for about 2 hours for my arrival, they started searching for me. They found me unconscious near the bank, and then took me to the hospital. Our group leader had also informed the police about the incident, and a police officer with 2 cops soon arrived at the hospital. When I regained consciousness, I told the officer about the incident and provided as much information about Daniel and David as I could. All my friends, family members, and I were shocked and horrified. Many news channels reported the incident, but they didn't show my identity at my request because revealing it could harm my career and life overall. My parents were very nervous about the incident and didn't inform other family members about what had happened to me. They also advised me not to tell anyone about the incident. I agreed with them as I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me and get excessive sympathy. After 3 days in the hospital, I was discharged, but continued to receive care from doctors, psychiatrists, and trauma therapy sessions. 4 days after the incident, I received relieving news. The police had arrested the criminals who assaulted me. Later, the court convicted them and sentenced them to life imprisonment. I believe they deserve harsher punishment. Despite the trauma and dissatisfaction with the punishment, my family and I found some closure knowing that the criminals were held accountable for their actions. This punishment would at least prevent others from being harmed by those animals. I prayed multiple times that they might get assaulted in the same way in prison by someone and feel the same pain and trauma I was experiencing. A month after the incident, my life effed me once more. I missed my first period, and when took a pregnancy test, it came back positive. I was shocked and disgusted at the thought of carrying the child of those animals. I was overwhelmed with anger and even attempted suicide. This pregnancy led me into a state of depression, and I was again in the hospital, but this time in the psychiatric ward. I remained there for a week and attended the sessions for 3 more weeks. The doctors offered me the option of terminating the pregnancy, and my family also suggested the same. I was confused and asked my family to give me some time to make the final decision. After 2 weeks of careful consideration, I concluded that the child, innocent and undeserving of the horrors I endured, deserves to be raised and cared for. That horrific incident that happened to me was not its fault, and the criminals had received the sentence, although they deserved more. I was not ready to commit another crime of ending the life of an innocent child. Even though abortion is legal in DC, I believe it is a moral crime to eliminate a human being, no matter if they have been born or not. Despite the visible challenges ahead, finally, I made the tough decision to keep and protect the life growing inside me. For context, my mother, Elizabeth, 46-year-old female, is a stay-at-home mom and comes from a typical conservative Mississippi family. My father, Silas, 49-year-old male, is a psychology professor and fairly liberal. My older siblings are conservative, like my mother, while my younger sibling, Sophia, and I take after our father. When my family learned of my decision to keep the child, My mother and elder siblings questioned my choice and pressured me to abort the child. They asked, "Why would you want to keep a child that reminds you of such pain?" They believed that an unwed pregnancy resulting from a sexual assault would ruin my life, disrupt my college experience, jeopardize my career, and diminish my prospects of finding a partner in the future. Not only this, it would severely affect my social standing, and the child would be a constant reminder of the traumatic experience I had. Despite their objections and rationales, I refused to abort the baby, leading to a heated argument with my family. The situation only calmed down when my father arrived home. While everyone else urged me to terminate the pregnancy, my father and younger sister supported my decision. My father not only backed me up, but also reminded the rest of the family members to respect my choice. His status, and, more importantly, his financial contribution to the family expenses ultimately led the family to agree with my decision. A week after this argument, my father died in an unfortunate car accident. After the funeral, my mother again started insisting on terminating my pregnancy. I told her clearly that I am not going to change my decision. I told her that the child symbolized resilience and hope, not pain and trauma. She said, "You are the most foolish girl I have ever seen." I ignored her and retreated to my room. The next day, after consulting with my siblings, my mom came to me and told me that she didn't want a bastard child in the family. She warned that if our relatives back in Mississippi found out about my decision, they would cut all ties with us. She said that she didn't want to sever family ties for a bastard child, who would prove to be a social stigma for the whole family. I was shocked to hear this from my mother. Before that day, I thought my mother was worried about my life and future, but her new stance clearly proved that she was more concerned about maintaining appearances in society than my well-being. I didn't argue with her this time. I remained silent, or perhaps shocked, and told her in one sentence that I would never ever change my decision. Upon hearing this, she left the room and gave me an ultimatum as she was leaving. Terminate the pregnancy or leave us forever. I didn't take a minute to make the decision. It was to leave my selfish family. Now, I was to decide when to leave the home and where to go. After learning the reality of my family, I had an idea to share my situation on social media and ask for advice. Narrating the whole story of my situation in a post, I asked, should I terminate the pregnancy that resulted from a sexual assault? Even though I had already decided to keep the child, I asked this question to gauge the reaction of society and hopefully garner some support. Despite not being an influencer, the post went viral, and I received an overwhelming response from social media. I faced judgment from all sides. Some called me brave, while others labeled me foolish. The pro-choice advocates argued that I should prioritize my own well-being and abort the child, while anti-abortion voices praised my decision. After weighing all the opinions and listening to my inner voice, I reaffirmed my choice to keep the child, not out of defiance or stubbornness, but out of love. I couldn't bear the thought of ending a life that had already endured so much. My child's heartbeat became my anchor, a reminder that life could emerge from darkness. When my mother found out about the post I had shared on social media, she became very angry. She scolded me harshly and asked me to delete the post and follow what the family wanted. When I resisted, she kicked me out of the house. I didn't try to go back home because I had already decided to leave them and knew my family wouldn't accept me with my child. After leaving home, I moved in with Olivia, who had promised to support me. She is the same Olivia who was our group leader when this traumatic opinion happened. After moving out, I sought therapy and support groups. I learned to cope with my trauma while nurturing the life growing within me. My friends rallied around me, and even strangers reached out with encouragement and financial aid. Their kindness reminded me that compassion still existed in this world. A month ago, I had a test to determine the gender of my child, and I found out it was a baby girl. Initially, I became worried about her future, but I dispelled the emotional weakness soon and decided that I would not let her be weak. I would make her both mentally and physically strong. I would teach her self-defense and help her become mentally strong so that she can face society with confidence. I now regret not learning self-defense. If I had learned it, I might not have faced that incident. In the evening, I had a call with my younger sister Sophia and shared the gender identity of my child with her. 3 days later, I received a call from her, informing me that my mom had attempted by cutting her wrist after learning that I was pregnant with a baby girl. However, she was out of danger. My sister also mentioned that our older siblings were thinking of visiting and meeting me. I told her to let them come. The next day, my brother and sister visited me. They tried to convince me to abort the child, saying I should prioritize our mother over the lump of blood, and told me that I could have kids at any time in life, but a mother was irreplaceable. Before they could finish, I expressed my outrage at them for calling my child a lump of blood. I defended my decision, stating that my child was my blood and the greatest sign of my resilience. I told them, almost yelling, that I would never consider ending her life, and as for my mother, despite my love for her, she should go to hell. After hearing this, they left red-faced, and my mother and siblings didn't contact me after that, and it had been a month since then. However, I am in contact with younger sister Sophia, who often tells me about them and that they haven't budged even an inch from their stance, and still want me to terminate the life of my baby, despite knowing that the baby is everything to me now. I feel her to be an unfortunate girl for being a part of such a selfish and sociopathic family as relatives. Despite all this, at times, I feel a pang of loss for my family support, but my love for my daughter quickly dispels those emotions. So, AITAH for keeping the pregnancy? OP is not an AH. She is a brave girl who is ready to raise her daughter even after enduring so much, so I would give her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's mother is a really big a-hole for being so rigid, conservative, and selfish. She wants to take the life of a child to maintain her appearance in society, and she doesn't care about the welfare of her daughter. It is really disgusting. So, I would give OP's mother 5 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's older siblings also deserve at least 4 out of 5 on the AH scale because they are supporting their mom in demanding the abortion of the baby. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries. Welcome to Am I the AH, where OP's mother is forcing and emotionally blackmailing him to marry his Indian cousin, despite the fact that OP's older brother has been deceived by an Indian girl for greed. It is a very interesting story. Let's dive into it. I, 31-year-old male, recently declined to marry my Indian cousin Madiha, 24-year-old female, because I was concerned that she may only be interested in marrying me to obtain US citizenship and could potentially leave me once she gets the citizenship of the land of opportunity. Background. My parents immigrated to the US in 1978. Initially, my father, 69-year-old male, worked as a laborer, while my mother, 58-year-old female, worked as a caregiver. After 8 years of hard work and savings, they were able to start a successful travel agency. We are all now naturalized citizens of America. In 1990, my 2 uncles also moved to the USA, and they are also naturalized citizens and are running their own businesses. 4 years ago, my father retired, and now my brother Saqib, 33-year-old male, and I manage the business. 2 years before our father's retirement, my brother went to India for a wedding where he met a girl named Afreen, 32-year-old female, and fell in love with her. After just 5 months of being in a relationship, they decided to get married. It was too fast, wasn't? Their relationship was limited to chatting and video calls because they were thousands of miles away from each other in different time zones. We all told my brother that their relationship was not mature enough to make such a big decision based on it and asked him to wait at least a year, but his continuous insistence finally compelled us to support his decision. Our family traveled to Calcutta, India, for 2 weeks for my brother's wedding ceremony, which was a lavish affair funded by my father. After the wedding, my parents and I returned to the USA because we were to look after the business, while the newlyweds stayed there for the honeymoon. After all that stuff, my brother eventually returned to the USA, but my sister-in-law stayed with her parents until she obtained her visa. Once all the paperwork was sorted out, she also moved to the USA. As required by law, after 3 years, she applied for permanent citizenship in the USA. Due to our strong family profile, she received approval within months. My brother and his wife apparently had a very good relationship, but the moment my sister-in-law got citizenship, her behavior changed towards my brother and other family members. They started having fights, and their quarrels finally ended with their separation after 5 years of their marriage. My brother has 2 children with her, and now they are with her, and my brother is paying the child support. support. Due to her betrayal, my brother remained upset for a couple of months, but he moved on with time. After 2 years of divorcing my brother, she sponsored her boyfriend, named Suleiman, 32-year-old male, to move to the USA and married him, and now they have a son and live a comfortable life. She played a long game. Otherwise, we would have taken legal action against her. My former sister-in-law and her husband obtained all of this by deceiving my brother. After this incident, we decided that none of our siblings would marry a non-American citizen, particularly an Indian. Now, I have a very negative opinion about Indian people marrying American NRIs. I believe all of them are greedy people looking to obtain American citizenship by marrying an American. You might not agree with me, as my mother does, but this is my opinion, and I always have strong opinions about things and people. After a year, my brother remarried our naturalized cousin, ABITAH, 31-year-old female. They now have a beautiful daughter together. Last month, my mom expressed her desire for me to get married. When I mentioned introducing my girlfriend Emma, 27-year-old female, my mom clarified that she was actually referring to her niece Madiha. I was surprised to hear this from my mother because some time ago, she, along with us, was criticizing Indian girls for being greedy in marrying American citizens, and now she wanted me to marry an Indian girl. I had been in a relationship with my girlfriend for 3 years, but I had not told anything about my girlfriend to my family because our family does not approve of the girlfriend-boyfriend culture. In Islamic tradition, a Muslim man can marry a Christian woman, so my mother did not completely reject the idea of marrying a Christian woman. However, she advised me to consider a Muslim woman instead, and suggested that Madiha would be a good match. When I brought up my ex-sister-in-law's betrayal to my elder brother, my mother reassured me that not everyone is the same, and that her niece was not that type of girl. I insisted that I would only marry someone from here, but my mom continued to stand by her opinion. Then, she started emotionally blackmailing me, saying that our parents struggled their entire life for us, and if I do marry someone from America, then I should poison her first, or that she will die of stress, and blah blah blah. Got the idea? Not only that, my mom said that if I marry an English girl, she would take all my money after divorcing me. It is really hilarious and a typical Indian mindset. Normally my dad is chill and doesn't interfere in my matters since I have started earning myself, but he says what my mother tells him to say. LOL. For this reason, he also started pressuring me to marry my mom's niece. When both of my parents started pressuring me, I decided to investigate my cousin and learn more about her than what my mother had told me. So I contacted an Indian friend of mine named Azhar, 26-year-old male, who was senior to Madiha at the university. When I asked him about her, he told me that he knew her very well, and that she had been in a relationship with a boy named Asif, 25-year-old male, for the last 4 years. When I told him the whole story, he revealed that Asif had been trying to move to the USA or Europe, but had failed to get the visa. He also told me that it was obvious that she and her boyfriend had planned to use me as a ladder to reach the USA. My friend also sent me some pictures of my cousin and her boyfriend together. After learning about my cousin's silly plan, I was shocked but grateful at the same time because I had discovered her intentions before she could execute them. When I revealed the truth about my cousin to my mom, she was confused. In her confusion, she mentioned that her sister, Madiha's mom, had contacted her and informed her that her daughter wanted to marry me. This confirmation only solidified the story my friend Azhar had shared with me. However, my mother didn't say much about the topic. I thought she was shocked to learn about the true nature of her sister and niece, and was ashamed to have such greedy relatives, so I didn't bring up the topic again. However, the next day, my mother called me into her room and explained that I might have a misunderstanding about her niece. She assured me that she was not a greedy girl, and suggested that the pictures my friend had sent me could be fake or edited. She told me that she had talked to her mother about my concerns, but she said that Madiha was not keen on going to the USA. Her mother also mentioned that she would be happy to stay in India after the marriage if I allowed it, and that it was her love for me that prompted her to discuss marrying me with her mother. She speculated that my friend Azhar might have ulterior motives, such as wanting to marry Madiha or having a grudge against her, which could have led him to spread such a shameful story about her. I know this was a new trick of my cousin to convince me to marry her, so I told my parents that I was not ready to marry her at any rate, and I would prefer never marrying. Upon hearing this, my mother started weeping and mentioned that she has fears of being abandoned in case I marry an English girl. I calmed my mother down and assured her that I am not going to abandon her or my father regardless of where I marry. I also told her that I might consider marrying any of my other Indian cousins except Madiha. I am sure that I am not wrong here, but tears of my mother sometimes put me in doubt. Can I be the jerk here? OP is not an AH, and he did very well by investigating his cousin before making any decision. It is not only about Indian people, it is common in other countries as well for people to marry American citizens for visas. OP did a wonderful job, so I would give him 0 out of 5 on the scale. However, OP's mom is an for forcing her son to marry her niece, despite knowing that her niece has a boyfriend back in India, and they have been applying for a US visa and have been rejected many times. So, I would give her 4.5 out of 5 on the scale. OP's father is also an for supporting his wife in forcing their son to marry a gold digger girl. What do the MacReddit fans think? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries. Welcome to Am I the A-hole, where OP is caught between her fiancé and his entitled stepmom, who wanted to use OP to get closer to her stepson so that she could live off his money, but her plan gets exposed. I, 27-year-old female, am getting married to my fiancé Jamie, 28-year-old male, next month in one of the best marriage halls in the city. After the wedding, we are planning to go on a honeymoon to Europe and possibly visit Asia as well. I am really excited about the wedding ceremony. My fiancé has a stepmom, Ellen, 56-year-old female, but he is not close to either his stepmother or his dad, Pramod, 53-year-old male. Last week, my fiancé's stepmom showed up at our house and asked me if I could help her surprise my fiancé with a dance for the two of them at our wedding. She confided in me that she had hoped her stepson would ask her to dance or honor her as the mother of the groom in some way. However, as time passed without any communication from him about the wedding, she came to the realization that he had no plans to make her feel special. She shared with me that she had loved him since he was 1-year-old when she first met him, and told me that officially becoming Jamie's mother had meant a great deal to her, but Jamie had never acknowledged her as his sole mother figure since childhood. She felt that it was only fair and right that on his wedding day he should acknowledge her in that role. For context, my fiancé originally comes from an Indian family that moved to Chicago in 1995, around a year before his birth. I think my fiancé's mother, AITAH, now deceased, was pregnant with him when they moved to the USA. My fiancé's father is a nurse, and his mother was a housewife, and they had an arranged marriage. However, his father met Ellen, a wealthy divorced woman, at work, and they started dating. After 6 months of dating, Ellen proposed to my fiancé's father. Though he was married and was about to become a father, he accepted her proposal for monetary gains, and in the hope that he would get permanent citizenship of the USA if he divorced his first wife. To create a reason for divorce, he started arguing with his mother on trivial matters, which led to occasional fights between them. Finally, they decided to divorce after my fiancé's birth. However, his mother tragically passed away in a car accident before the divorce was finalized. After the death of his mother, my fiancé was taken in by his aunt, and his father married Ellen. His aunt also died after 4.5 years, and he moved in with his dad and stepmom when he was 5. He told me that she was never like a mom is supposed to be. She was abusive and neglectful, particularly towards him, and used to discriminate between his own children and him. When he told his father about her behavior, his father didn't pay much heed to his complaints. Sensing that his father would not address his concerns, he never complained to his father again. Instead, he started avoiding his stepmom. He was a competent learner and a bright student, and he received a full scholarship in high school. However, none of Ellen's children could secure any scholarships, because of which she grew more jealous of my fiancé. However, instead of complaining about his stepmom or fighting with his stepmom, Jamie silently moved out before reaching the age of majority, and visited home few and far between, and none of his parents cared about his moving out. After finishing high school, my fiancé joined a prestigious university in Italy on a Fulbright scholarship. Despite feeling jealous of my fiancé's success, his stepmom realized that her children were not as accomplished as was my fiancé, so she decided to change her attitude towards my fiancé, hoping to benefit from his success in future and be recognized as the mother of a successful man. When the news of Jamie's scholarship broke out, Ellen and Jamie's father invited him home and told him they wanted to host a party to celebrate his Fulbright scholarship. Jamie knew what was the purpose of the invitation, so he declined to attend the party on the pretext that he was very busy preparing for the journey. However, he promised to visit them one day before leaving for Italy. Although they were not happy, they had to agree. On the day before his flight, he visited home out of obligation, despite knowing the reality of his stepmom and his father. After completing his education, my fiancé joined an MNC in Washington, D.C. He now visits home sometimes because he believes he must not treat his family the way he was treated in his childhood. If he does the same, what would be the difference between him and his stepmom and his dad? So, my fiancé respects his family, and sometimes helps his father financially as well. But he doesn't trust them anymore, and doesn't think of them as true family members. I met my fiancé at his first job. We dated for 4 years, and now we are getting married next month. As I mentioned above, a week ago, my boyfriend's stepmom reached out to me and asked if I could help her surprise my fiancé with a dance for the two of them at our wedding. I knew my fiancé would hate it and would never agree to dance with his stepmom. She acknowledged as much and told me how much it broke her heart that he always rejected and denied her as his mother. She wanted to do something where he wouldn't say no, so they could have a moment together, and she could experience that mother-son connection he had refused to give her his whole life. She shared how much it hurt her that my fiancé never returned any love or affection to her and disliked her in a way that stung worse than anything because she always tried to give him the love, affection, and mothering he needed. I knew all this was a ploy to be recognized as my fiancé's mother. So I declined, because I knew my fiancé wouldn't want to dance with her, and that was sufficient for me. She tried to convince me but couldn't, and in the end, she asked me not to say anything about her request to my fiancé. I neither agreed nor disagreed, because I didn't want to argue with her, but I did tell to my fiancé. My fiancé wasn't happy, but he said nothing at first. Then, my fiancé's stepmom asked him directly, and after telling her no in the clearest way possible, he also read her the riot act for going behind his back and trying to force this on him via me. And of course she was pissed that I told my fiancé. She accused me of making things worse between them. My fiancé told her that I had done nothing wrong and that supporting him was not making things worse, but her refusal to accept that he will never ever see her as his mom is doing a good enough job of that. My fiancé's stepmom sent me a text a few hours after the confrontation and told me that I knew it would make things worse, and I told him anyway, which made me untrustworthy and a troublemaker. I replied to her that I don't care what she thought about me, and told her that I only care about the feelings of my future husband. Then, I blocked her after showing her text to my fiancé. So, am I the jerk? What OP did is certainly justifiable, and she did what a partner is supposed to do. Jamie's stepmom is a really selfish lady, and hence a big AH. She has been mistreating him since his childhood, and now that she sees her stepson has become successful, she is trying to get closer to him. It is pure selfishness. If she were a genuine human, she should have first apologized for her past behavior, but she is not even ready to accept that she did wrong to OP in the past. She is lying to OP that she has loved her stepson, but the reality is otherwise. This behavior is not justifiable. So, I would give her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Jamie's father is also an AH for leaving his family for money and for a green card. It is pathetic of him to prioritize money over his family. So, I would give him 4 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries. Welcome to Our Relationship, where OP's gold digger girlfriend was in a relationship with a boy online. When she went to meet him, her online boyfriend turned out to be a criminal, and he and his friend assaulted her. Now, OP's is begging him to continue the relationship with her. I am a 39-year-old male businessman who runs a restaurant chain in New York, currently operating 3 restaurants, no brand name to protect my privacy. My physical appearance is not very good, and I don't possess the chiseled features or striking looks that society often celebrates. Despite my lack of striking looks, I have done well in my life, perhaps better than many of my colleagues who possess attractive physical features. However, when it comes to romantic relationships, I lack confidence. In high school, I had feelings for one of my female friends, but couldn't gather the courage to propose to her. She eventually entered a relationship with someone else, leaving me heartbroken. After that, I didn't think of proposing to any girl until 2018. In 2018, my restaurant had a vacancy for a manager. When we ran ads for the position, many candidates came for interviews, but we were not finding a standout candidate until a girl named Emma, 31-year-old female, appeared. She is a very attractive young lady with excellent communication skills. Considering these factors, we hired her. Now, I realized the halo effect was involved in her hiring. After some time, she seemed dedicated to the restaurant. Due to her apparent loyalty, I started getting closer to her. I gave her some unwarranted praise and later promoted her to chief manager. Eventually, we started going out for dinner. Despite my lack of confidence in approaching women, I decided to propose to her because she was an employee of my restaurant, thinking it might give me an advantage and lead to a romantic relationship. One day, I proposed to her on my knees, and she promptly accepted my proposal. I was overjoyed because it was the first time I had come in a relationship, and before we left the restaurant, I had already made all our future plans. We had a very good relationship until all branches of my restaurant were closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. Although the government gave a green signal for the reopening of restaurants and hotels, I couldn't reopen 2 of mine because I had spent a lot of money during the lockdown, paid off some loans, and didn't have enough money to reopen them while maintaining the pre-pandemic standards. I didn't want to lower the standard of my brand, so I chose to close down 2 locations. My excessive spending during the lockdown was also influenced by the psychological consequences of the pandemic. At that time, it felt like life was coming to an end, and there was no future in sight. As my business declined, so did my relationship with my girlfriend. Previously, we had regular dates, and she even used to stay at my place for weeks. However, after I lost 2 restaurants, her behavior towards me changed drastically. She stopped meeting me after work hours and visiting me often. She became preoccupied with her phone and started arriving late to work. When I asked her about her changed behavior, she said that there was nothing serious. When I inquired about her phone usage, she mentioned that she had met some Italian friends through social media and occasionally talked to them, which kept her busy on the phone. Despite having doubts and conflicting feelings, I didn't press further because I was afraid of damaging our relationship. She had already provided an explanation for her phone usage, and at that time, I had no option but to trust her, perhaps blindly. In 2021, I won a jackpot of $1 million USD from Mega Millions. I was ecstatic, and it reinforced my belief in luck and unseen forces. So, I decided to open a new restaurant and invested some of the money into the existing one I was running at the time to maintain its pre-pandemic standards. When my girlfriend came to know about the lottery I had won, she also became very happy, and over the following month, I noticed that the frequency of my girlfriend's visits had increased. It was kind of surprising for me. When I thoroughly analyzed her behavior during our time together, I realized that our relationship was somehow dependent on my financial stability. However, I didn't find her to be a gold digger, as some of my friends thought. I told myself that if she was a gold digger, she would have dumped me when I lost my business. She was not a gold digger because she remained with me even after that setback in my life. Many of my friends suggested that I end the relationship with her, but I refused and decided to continue our relationship because I could not bear to see our bond shatter. The reality is that all of us pursue money in some way. If she desired a wealthy future husband, I saw no issue with that. I believe that infidelity is the only ultimate deal breaker in a relationship, and I had no proof that she was cheating on me, even though I had some doubts about it when she used to remain busy on her phone. To strengthen our relationship further, we decided to spend some time together, far from the rushed city and hectic work routine. So, we planned a 3-week trip to Europe, and decided to visit Switzerland, Hungary, Denmark, Ireland, and Italy. I covered all the expenses because I earn more and wanted us to have a stress-free trip. Just before sunset, we flew to Ireland from Kennedy Airport, and late at night, we were in Europe. After visiting all the countries we had decided to visit, we reached Italy. Everything was going well until the last day, when my girlfriend dropped a bombshell. She wanted to stay longer in the company of her Italian friends, whom she knew through social media. This caught me off guard, as she didn't discuss it with me beforehand, and it was particularly alarming for me because she wanted to stay in Italy alone. I told her that she should avoid staying with male friends whom she had never met before. In response, she accused me of lacking trust in her. When she insisted repeatedly, I asked her to let me meet her friends so that we could ensure they were not scammers or criminals. However, she was not ready to let me meet them. I told her about many social media scams in an attempt to convince her not to stay in Europe alone. However, she didn't agree and remained adamant, which led to a heated argument between us. I told her that she had spoiled our trip, and we didn't get what we had come for, the peace of mind and relief from a hectic routine. After the fight, I went out of the hotel for a while to calm myself down. After some time, I returned and told her that if she wanted to extend her trip, I had no problem, and that I was leaving. When I told her this, she asked me to pay for her return ticket, which I refused, saying that if she wanted to extend her trip, she should be financially independent to support her own activities. As a result of my refusal, she blamed me for being selfish and unsupportive. We had an argument, which could have escalated into a fight again if I were not running late. As I had a flight at 1 p.m., I rushed to the airport, leaving her at the hotel alone. I arrived home late at night and overslept in the morning. When I woke up, I saw 30 missed calls from my girlfriend, which surprised me. When I called back, a policeman answered. When I inquired about her, the policeman informed me that some African illegal immigrants in Italy had forcefully assaulted Emma during the night and left her unconscious on a farm. The policeman also mentioned that the criminals had been arrested and had confessed to their crime. I was shocked to hear all this, and I left for Italy soon. When I reached the hospital, my girlfriend had recovered from unconsciousness. After seeing me, she hugged me and started crying. Later on, the police told us that the criminals had been using fake identities for scamming people and assaulting women, and the police ensured that they would be punished as per the law. I sympathized with my girlfriend at that time, but the question arose as to why she met her male friends in my absence and why she didn't let me meet them. So, without letting my girlfriend know about it, I requested the police officer to let me meet the criminals. Initially, he was hesitant, but he allowed me to meet them when I requested him repeatedly. When I met their gang leader, I asked him what his relationship with my girlfriend was on social media. He told me that he used a fake ID and credentials of a rich, handsome guy to approach my girlfriend. When they became friends on social media, he proposed to her, which she accepted. Now he had invited her to come see him so that they could discuss their future together. To cut the story short, my girlfriend wanted to stay in Italy alone because she wanted to meet her online boyfriend and discuss their marriage. In other words, she was cheating on me. I didn't tell my girlfriend that I had met her online boyfriend. After her discharge from the hospital, we left for the USA. Upon reaching home, I told her the whole story and said that I wanted a breakup because I can bear anything but not cheating. She started weeping and apologizing for what she had been doing and promised me that she would never think of cheating on me. When she started pushing too much, I asked her to give me some time to think it over. Honestly speaking, I don't want to live with her anymore, but I didn't break up with her right away because she was already suffering from the pain of the assault she had endured. However, sometimes I think everyone deserves at least one chance. What do you think? What should I do now? I think 𝐒𝐄 should part ways with his girlfriend because cheating and gold digging seem to be ingrained in her nature. If 𝐒𝐄 forgives his girlfriend, I am sure she will cheat on him again. What do MacReddit fans think? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries. Welcome to our ProRevenge, where 𝐒𝐄 disconnects the cable service, but the call center agents continue calling him to recharge. Initially, 𝐒𝐄 tries to tell them that he has disconnected the service, but continuously receive calls. So, 𝐒𝐄 finally decides to play with the callers. Whenever 𝐒𝐄 receives a call, he tells the agent that there is a problem with the set-top box connection to the TV and asks for technical help. 𝐒𝐄 gets 8 tech support visits. Let's dive into the story to see what happens next. I disconnected the cable service, but the company continued calling me to recharge. So, I took revenge by booking tech support to fix the TV I had already returned to the company. I had a smart TV at home, but no one was watching it. Everyone was using streaming platforms. So, I finally decided to disconnect the cable service. I contacted the company and requested to disconnect the service. They agreed and asked me to return the set-top box, which I did. A company agent collected the box from my home on the 8th of June. It was a good riddance, or so I thought. Starting the following week, I began receiving calls from random call centers for recharging. When I Googled, I found out that this was a common practice of such companies. The company had outsourced this part of the support to a third party, and they simply checked the printed database for people who had a connection, but did not recharge last month. Since my disconnection was on the 8th of the month, and their printed database was from the beginning, they did not have this updated information. I tried to inform the call center agents that I had disconnected the service, but the calls kept coming. Frustrated, I started talking to the callers, informing them of the fake problem my TV was having connecting to the set-top box. I even recorded the calls. One caller took it seriously and booked tech support, and a technician arrived promptly. When he asked what the problem was, I told him the real issue, and he left. Despite this, I continued to receive calls, and I kept booking tech service every time I got a call and informing the technician of the real problem. After 8 tech support visits, I got a call from a supervisor asking why I was booking tech support when clearly I didn't have a connection anymore. I said, "Why am I getting calls to recharge when I clearly don't have a connection anymore?" The supervisor said, "What do you mean?" I told him the whole story and also sent him the call recordings that I received from the call center. The supervisor said sorry, and I didn't get any call to recharge for that TV again. It was a very interesting revenge. I think most call centers deserve this. The story also shows that most call center agents are blind. They don't see whom to call and who their potential customer is. They just dial numbers and throw arrows in the air. OP is not alone. This is the story of all Americans. I myself receive 3 to 4 calls daily from call centers. I have even received many calls from the same number multiple times selling the same service. I have blocked hundreds of numbers. I will suggest to listeners do what OP did to such call center agents. They deserve it. Let's move to Am I the A-hole?, where OP uninvited his adoptive brother from his wedding because he said OP is not his brother, and accuses OP of being responsible for his mental illness and drug addiction. These accusations left OP disappointed, and he decided to uninvite his adoptive brother from his wedding. However, OP's parents say that if he didn't invite his brother, they would also not attend the wedding. It is full of family drama, so let's dive into it. I, 32-year-old male, am getting married to my girlfriend Emma, 29 years old, with whom I have a son, Liam, 5M. However, I am not going to invite my adoptive brother to the wedding, because he does not consider me his brother, and has said the same to my son multiple times. Background. When I was 14, my parents adopted a 7-year-old boy, James. From the start, it was evident that things would be challenging, because James had many behavioral issues due to the intense trauma he had gone through after being assaulted by a pedophile. I did my best to be empathetic, but living with him was draining. His outbursts were frequent, and I constantly felt on edge, afraid of triggering him. As we got older, I always tried to support James, no matter what. A few years ago, he fell into severe drug addiction. It was me who took him to rehab and paid for it. I was always there for him. It was not an easy task, but I stood by him because I always considered him my brother. I never thought that he was my adoptive brother. For the last 5 years, James has been completely clean, and he has also come out of that childhood trauma. He is working a job in our family company, gets a handsome salary, and is doing very well for himself. Honestly speaking, it is due to my parents that he is enjoying his life. If he were working somewhere else, it would have been impossible for him to reach this position. I don't want to say that he is incompetent. The reality is that reaching the position he is on takes years of experience. His position in my parents' company is not the problem. The issue lies in his behavior towards me as a brother. While helping our son with his summer homework, which was about family relations and family tree, my girlfriend told my son that James was my adoptive brother, not biological. It was not a big deal because it was just a practical example for my son's lesson. However, during dinner, my son innocently asked James if he would like his name to be included in our family tree. James flatly replied, "No," and told my son that he didn't want to be part of it because we're not real brothers. Initially, I thought he was joking, but when I said to my son, "Uncle James is my brother, why would he not be in our family tree?" James got offended and said that he was not my brother. Instead, he was just my adoptive brother, and that he was unlucky to be my adoptive brother. When I asked him what he meant by this, he said, "You know better," and then he left my home. My parents were also there at the table. They tried to stop him, but he didn't listen to anyone. My parents started asking me what the problem was, why James said all this, and what I did to him. I was bombarded by questions from all sides. I told them by yelling that I didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't know why he was being rude to me. The following day, I reached out to him and asked him why he did all this. He said that I was responsible for all this, and said that he didn't have any mental issues. and I made him realize that he was a psycho and that I did all this to score numbers. Also, he said that I was responsible for his drug addiction. I was utterly stunned and confused to hear all this from the person for whom I had done a lot, perhaps much more than my capacity. I tried to convince him that I didn't do anything like this, but he was not ready to listen to me. I returned disappointed from his home. After thinking about it thoroughly, I decided to uninvite James from my wedding. My fiancé has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They have said that if James was not invited, they would not attend either. I'm absolutely heartbroken that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know James has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him, despite all the heartache. And now, I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. Another thought in my mind is that some opponent of ours is trying to play him against me. I am just confused and devastated. I don't know what is happening and what is right and what is wrong. AITAH for uninviting my adoptive brother from my wedding because he said he is not my brother and accused me of being responsible for his drug addiction. OP is not an AH. OP's adoptive brother is a big AH for being so selfish. OP has been helping him throughout his life, and now he is blaming OP for all this. OP's parents are bigger AH than OP's brother for forcing OP to invite OP's adoptive brother to his wedding. OP's parents must understand their biological son, and they should not prioritize their adoptive son over him, especially when he is in the right. This behavior is totally unjustifiable. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.